Hello, everyone, and welcome along to another VCO Studio show with myself, Ben Constanduros. VCO, as you well know by now, is combining the worlds of virtual and real life, both hosting real life events and trying to get to the back end of this fantastic industry and talk to some of the key players. We've been running this since about June last year now, so if you want to watch any of our interviews from before, jump onto our YouTube channel, make sure you hit subscribe and see all the different guests that we've chatted to over the last, I think, 25 different studio shows. But 2021 has kicked off in style and we've had fantastic guests already. And today we welcome along the latest winner for the Porsche Esports Supercup All-Star race, which is basically lots of influencers getting together and having a good old fun, entertaining race. Emily Jones is with us, our second female interviewee on VCO Studio. So great to have you, Emily. Thank you very much for joining us all the way from Australia.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, happy to be on.
So basically, the idea of this is to get a feel for a little bit more about you as a person and your kind of passion for esports, how you got involved and all the rest of it. So it's a nice relaxed chat, if you like. So first of all, being in Australia, time zones wise for you, always must be a bit of a challenge. You must be driving at all kinds of weird times in the night.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my God. It's like I've raced mostly in Australia over my sim racing career, and it's only been in the last maybe year or so, where I've started doing lots of Euro events that are on early in the morning. So when I'm racing PESC, that's at 4 a.m. I've been doing, I think when I did like overtake, that was at like 3 a.m. till like 6 or something. I've got a race that I'm doing tomorrow at like 6 a.m. It's kind of interesting. I remember when I first started sim racing, there wasn't like any Australian leagues. So I was getting up before school and like doing league racing at like 4 a.m. before school. So it feels very old school what I'm doing.
So when did your kind of interest in esports and motorsport begin?
Yeah, I mean, like I've always been interested. My first word was car, so I was like pretty
Cool.
obsessed from the get-go, I guess. And yeah, I followed my uncle. He kind of raced a couple of historic cars, and yeah, I was just obsessed with racing. I remember watching like all of Formula One as a kid, and then I just kind of annoyed
Which
my
also is a
parents.
challenge, isn't it? As a to be a Formula One fan in Australia is a challenge because again, you have to get up at silly o'clock to watch it.
Yeah, it's actually great as an adult because it's on at like 10, 11 p.m. So it's like perfect on a Sunday night, like once you've finished, dinner and everything. But as a kid, that was way past my bedtime. So I used to record everything, like set the VCR to record, and I'd watch the VHS the next morning before the news came on, so I wouldn't spoil myself. But yeah, I was super obsessed with it, I guess, when I was a kid and kind of started karting. I when I was 10 and I
Okay.
raced karts, and then I raced open wheelers for a bit as well. And then yeah, I've just been obsessed the whole way.
So your desire and ambition has always been to do real world racing, and the sim thing came after that, or how did that kind of play out?
Yeah, I mean, I love racing, so it's always been kind of to do real world stuff from the start. And real world stuff is kind of, you don't get a lot of track time, and it's expensive, and I want to race every day, all day. So I started sim racing, I guess, when I was a teen, and um, yeah, kept going. It was just for fun, and then eventually I had to stop racing as I ran out of money, as everyone does. And then I just kept sim
Mhm.
racing from then, and it's more seriously as I kept going.
So initially, what was your kind of go-to platform when you first started sim racing, and how did you find out that you could race other people online?
Yeah, I remember. So I had NASCAR Racing 2003 season, which is an awesome game. And I mean, made by Papyrus, who's now iRacing. So it's
Yeah.
basically original iRacing, of course. And I was, yeah, I didn't even know what NASCAR was at the time. I just remember I got the game for some reason, and I just really liked it. So I remember joining like a league, and it was only oval racing. because that was what the game was. And I just remember playing that like all the time. And I kind of moved on to R Factor and then onto iRacing.
Okay.
And since then, I've kind of played iRacing for a long time and Gran Turismo and bits like that.
And then the decision for you to start streaming and becoming somebody that people follow online, was that a natural thing for you?
Yeah, it's kind of a tricky one because it almost I was pushing myself very far out of my comfort zone. When I first started, it was like streaming for sim racing was tiny. I remember Matt Malone was like pretty much the only kind of big-ish streamer, and I remember he was only kind of averaging maybe like 100 or so 200 viewers or something like that. And yeah, it was a very small community, and I was just I remember I was bored. I think I like finished university and I was just like, I just want to stream. It seems fun. And I'm a very kind of introverted person generally. So streaming kind of brought me out of my kind of comfort zone a little bit and
Yeah.
kind of got me comfortable talking to lots of people. So it was fun.
And do you find that outside of your kind of streaming bubble in that seat with that steering wheel, you have developed as a person to be able to speak to people outside of that environment, or are you still a little bit shy when it comes to actually just real world kind of communication?
Yeah, I think it's definitely helped. I mean, like I have a really I have a lovely friendship group that I've been friends with for a long time. I've a lot of awesome friends, and very few of them are connected to racing in any way. So
Okay.
I'm kind of like I kind of keep my two lives kind of very separate, I guess. But I think it's just being on the internet, being confident in myself. Um, even as somebody like sounds really stupid, but like posting like photos of myself on the internet, doing things like selfies and things like that. I wasn't a very confident person when I was in university or in high school. So I think being in front of an audience is really helps me do that.
So, how do your friends that don't know your streaming world kind of react to the Emily that's online?
They don't really get it, I think, is the main thing to explain. Like they just don't understand it all. And they don't I mean, they don't understand racing. Like even when I was racing in real life, they never kind of got it. Um, that I think I don't know, it's a weird kind of situation where every now and then somebody needs to jump in and remind them of what I'm doing. And I try and use lots of different buzzwords. Like I like Gran Turismo, I was like, I'm racing in the world championships, guys. The world championships. And it was only then that they were like, oh, that's actually kind of exciting, I guess. Before then they think I'm streaming to like 4 people or something. So yeah, I think they've learned more as I've gone on. And I don't know, my personality is slightly different on stream as well. So those who have watched me on stream are like, you're very bubbly and excited in real life, and kind of off stream I'm very much more chill, I guess. But yeah,
Yeah,
they're okay with it.
I think with a lot of people, whether it be um, streamers or whether it be comedians, especially. I have a few friends that are comedians, and they particularly are. You would expect them to be funny, right, all the time. A comedian, that's their job, to be hilarious all the time. And actually, the
Yeah,
ones that I know are very funny for a very short period of time, and a lot of the time are the first people to bed and to hide. So I think
it's
it's
like they get
okay.
it all out of their system almost.
Yeah,
Maybe I feel
yeah.
like I'm very smiley now, and then as soon as I end stream, um, people who have like hung out while I've been streaming, I feel like as soon as I end stream, I like stop smiling for like half an hour. I mean, I'm normally pretty happy, but I feel like as soon as I end stream, I'm like I need to be angry and like sad for half an hour, and then I'll be back to normal again. It's weird.
It's the same as commentators. My wife gets very annoyed after I've done 6 hours of Creventic because I don't speak for an hour because I've used a lot of words in
You're
those
just
6 hours of commentary. There's not very many left. The other kind of we talk about Australia being a bit of a making it tricky for you to participate outside of Australia because of time zones. Uh, how do you see the sim racing world? See you as a female in that world when there are few that really exist?
It's an interesting one. It feels a lot different, a lot more different now than it did felt years ago.
Okay.
I remember back when before there were broadcasts and everything, um, it wasn't kind of much of a thing. Like I kind of, I guess, snuck under the radar. Like I never really brought attention to it. Maybe people noticed. It was like, that is a girl's name I'm racing against in a lobby, but
Yes.
nobody knew who I am or what I looked like, I guess. It's only been in the last even like 2 or 3 years where it's really kind of sim racing's blown up that everyone's
Yeah.
like, oh, that's a big thing. And yeah, I don't know. It feels okay. My team that I race with and everyone that I know is super lovely. There are of course bad eggs in the community that bully you and stuff like that, but the positive people outweigh the negative. So yeah.
And are there kind of other female streamers that you look, or female racers, I should say, that you look to and admire? There's quite a community in Australia. On the ACC SRO Asia series, you had 2 or 3 very successful females.
Yeah, it's ACC is huge with female races. It's like an entire series dedicated to us, which is kind of
Ah,
awesome. Um, but yeah, it's I don't know. In terms of drivers I look up to, racing virtual Le Mans was a crazy experience because my 3 teammates were pretty much the main 3 girls that I looked up to in racing, like
okay.
Tati Calderon and kind of Catherine Legge and Sophia Flosh, and I was just that was a crazy experience. But yeah, otherwise in streamers, there's a lot of awesome female streamers in Australia, and we tend to have a really good community and kind of build each other up and, you know, host and rate each other and things like that. So it's okay.
Nice. You got your each other's backs, as all women
a,
seem to do.
a little bit, yeah. I mean, like helping each other kind of helps us all as a team. So it's good.
Yeah. Yeah. So, talking about kind of biggest things that you've been involved with over the years so far, would you say Virtual Le Mans was well up there, or have you got other kind of high memories?
Yeah, Virtual Le Mans was probably right up there. That was an insane experience, and um, even just like working with Signatech, like it was. I had a real world race engineer kind of engineering me through it, and it's been so long since I was doing that in real life. It was kind of the memories were coming back, and it was, you know, you'd get back into pit lane and you'd say how the car felt, and they would just tell you changes to make, and that doesn't happen in sim racing. So it was a crazy experience. But otherwise, like World Tour, so the World Finals for Gran Turismo were awesome, and yeah, Supercars E Series is a lot of fun as well. I went to do a live event for that in Sydney, so there's a couple of big events. Yeah.
Yeah, talking of the supercars thing, when went into lockdown in March, supercars did an incredible job of running their real world series in the virtual world. I mean, it was world recognized. Really, I think it's been forgotten really in Europe just how good it was. And you were part of really inside that.
Yeah, yeah. So it was amazing. Like the Supercars team is, I genuinely believe some of the best in the business. The Supercars kind of production team is right up there with F1, I think, in terms of the quality broadcasts they
Yeah.
make. And they carried it over straight to the sim racing world. I made the track guides for the kind of the Pro Series, which was kind of awesome. So I made the, like, I think it was the Macca's track guide. So I kind of did a lap and explained my way through it, which is on the Facebook and the Twitter pages. But also there's a sim racing kind of series of that, which is also broadcast.
Yeah.
And I raced in that at the end of last year as well, which was fun.
So, how did you see last year kind of accelerate your profile? Did you see numbers go crazy because of the real world press that you were getting and the suddenly the virtual and the real mix?
Yeah, it was nuts. Like it was a crazy experience. So my numbers definitely went up. Like I doubled, triple, I don't know, whatever. It's gone up a long way, but I it was a weird start to the year because I felt like I wasn't doing enough for my, like I wasn't streaming enough and I was working a lot, and I don't know, I didn't feel like I was doing enough, and it was around the virtual Le Mans time that my kind of profile grew quite quickly. But it was a weird situation as well, because there were lots of real world drivers coming into our turf almost, and kind of like
Yeah.
starting to stream and things like that. And yeah, so it was a crazy time to be a streamer. But over the second half of the year, my numbers definitely blew up, which was awesome.
So outside of streaming and sim racing, do you have another job, or is this now your full time thing?
Yeah, so I do work full time. So I
Wow. Okay.
yeah, when I have to wake up at 6 a.m., I'll drive for a bit and then go back to sleep and then work. And then at the end of the day, kind of keep streaming at the end of the day. So it's like it never ends pretty much. And I as well as that, like I would love to kind of do it full time as a career. And I know a lot of streamers and a lot of sim racers do. Um it I'm sort of on the way to it. Like I feel like I'm not too far away from being able to do it as a career, but I like eating too much and I like going out with my friends, and I feel like I would be living on Megarang if I was just streaming. So yeah.
Let's talk about platforms. As you say, iRacing seems to be very much the place where you exist mostly. But how do you kind
Mhm.
of assess all the different platforms out there, especially as you said that you kicked off with R Factor all those years ago?
Yeah, so I like a lot of sims, and I feel like kind of racing different sims is kind of a lot of fun. I mean, I think if you're really trying to kind of go pro or kind of succeed at a sim, you need to focus on just one. But if you're just
Yeah.
having fun with it, you can try everything. And I've raced R Factor and R Factor 2, I only tried for the first time last year actually for Virtual Le Mans. Yeah, I've been racing iRacing the whole time. I race a lot of Gran Turismo, which I actually quite highly rate. I actually think it's quite good. And yeah, I play some other things as well. iRacing's probably my favorite, but every sim's got like, good parts and bad parts. So it's like if we could all squish all the sims together, maybe it would be a good game. Perfect game.
And presumably because of your real world racing background and your competitive spirit, yes, you're a streamer, but ultimately you just want to win races, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I I've kind of I've had a few almost not, maybe not arguments, discussions with people online about it, that the thing that I love most about racing is beating the other person. Like like the car control is fun and I loved going fast, but ultimately I want to compete against that person and I want to outdrive them. I want to beat them at the track. And I don't really care where that is, whether it's on like, Forza, probably not my thing, but like Gran Turismo and iRacing, it doesn't really matter as long as it's an equal playing field. It's awesome, and I feel like sim racing is a really good version of that because we're all on identical kind of cars in most situations. Whilst in real world racing, you don't have that.
Yeah.
Even things like iRacing with kind of there's a bit of a scandal at the moment with like PESC and tire warming, and people are like, oh, it's not realistic, and it's like, well, if everyone's doing it, it's a level playing field, and that's what we're living for, right? We just want to beat the other driver. So I don't know. I feel pretty strongly about just the competitive side of things, and that's why I play iRacing the most, I guess, because it's mostly multiplayer racing.
Yeah. So ultimately, the realism factor doesn't necessarily, even though you've come from real world motorsport, the realism factor doesn't necessarily matter to you as long as everybody's racing in the same situation. So did you find adapting to Gran Turismo harder than perhaps R Factor was because R Factor was closer to the real world, or not really?
Yeah, definitely. I think in my opinion, it's more important to make it interesting for racing and fun, and even things like in Gran Turismo. For example, all the races are with like tire multipliers and fuel multipliers. So you're burning like, sometimes races will be like 6 times fuel and 12 times tire wear. So it's like you can only do 2 laps on a set of tires before you need to pit. So there's like, it changes the strategy completely and it's completely not realistic. But what you do affects the way that you race. You can drive kind of carefully, or you can drive, conservatively and change your pit strategy. And I don't know, it's so exciting. And this stuff doesn't happen in real life. You don't get like a 30-minute race with 4 pit stops in real life, but you do in sim racing. I think adapting to that was really difficult though, coming from real life. In terms of the driving style, it's very, very different. Like Gran Turismo, you kind of just, you hit your marks, you turn in, and that's all you have to do. Like the car doesn't really snap on you as much as it does in real life or in iRacing and things. So I remember when I was first starting, I was like catching slides that were just not happening. Like I would just turn into the corner and just start catching slides, and it'd be like, what are you doing? Just turn into the corner, like it's gonna stick. So different experience.
I like so many Formula One guys found when they jumped into Formula One 2020 for the virtual series, and why so few actually do participate in it, because it just doesn't quite compute, and you just need so much time to practice. Time must be tricky for you then. If you're doing full-time job and then streaming mornings and nights, it must be a bit tricky to get the practice in to be able to be competitive when you jump into the All-Stars race, for instance.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I mean, the All-Star one is pretty chill, as we're kind of, I'm not doing really any practice for it until kind of the night before. I would do like maybe half an hour of laps for it. But it's just kind of a fun race, I guess. So I'm not really worrying about it. But back when I was racing GT, during the official FIA series, I like stopped streaming for a month because I was just spending all of my free time on practice. And a lot of other maybe drivers were students, or kind of could spend a lot more time on it. But for me, I had only a very 3 or 4 hours every night that I could just use, and I didn't want to use it streaming. I just wanted to focus on my driving. So I stopped streaming for a month, which was something that I did. But yeah, it's hard kind of mixing up your time. And I find working from home makes it easier because I'm kind of like, I don't have to travel every day. But my days are pretty jam-packed. Like I wake up, I go to work, I eat dinner, I stream, I go to bed. So it's pretty full on.
But life in Australia at the moment for you isn't too bad. You guys are pretty much back to normal in terms of COVID, right?
Yeah, we're very lucky. So we're in lockdown for most of 2020. We had about
You're in Melbourne,
month out of lockdown. Yeah, I'm in Melbourne. So we went back into lockdown. So we're in lockdown for most of the year, which was kind of a bummer. And the rest of the world was out having fun, and we were in lockdown. But it's gone full circle, and we've been COVID free since really December, November, I want to say. There's been a small hiccup, but otherwise everything's back to normal. So yeah, you can go out, you can do everything. It's cool.
Very nice. Very jealous. Wish I was in Australia, that's
Sorry.
for sure. Yeah. Emily, thank you very much for chatting with us. I know it's late for you, so you'll be wanting to go to bed. But really interesting to chat. And one last thing, actually, one last thing on my list of things to ask you is kind of where's the next step for Emily Jones in terms of her streaming? What are your kind of ambitions and future?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I don't really know. I think I'm gonna keep streaming this year, put a bit more effort. I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel. My quality of content there is garbage, so I'm sorry to anyone who's on my YouTube, but I think I'm going to try and create more YouTube content, as that's another place for us to kind of gain revenue in our industry. So I guess is that, and I want to make it to the World Championships again in GT Sport, and other races as well. We'll see how we go.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and make sure you all subscribe to Emily's YouTube channel as well as ours on VCO. And I have never any idea who I'm interviewing next week, but make sure you tune in Monday, 8 o'clock CET, Central European Time, and find out who next week's guest is. Until then, enjoy your sim racing. Bye-bye.